Hey everyone, it's Zach back. There are many reasons why you might want to cut your spending. Maybe you're trying to save for a house, perhaps you're saving for a car, maybe you're building up a college fund, or perhaps you're trying to save for your own retirement. Maybe you have too much debt or too little income. Perhaps you're just trying to build up an emergency fund, or you realize that you just spend too much money. Whatever it is for you, what I want to do in this video is share specific steps that you can take to cut your spending and begin to get control over your finances so that way you can move forward and achieve your goals. So let's take our time, dive in the details, and jump into it right now. The first step to getting control of your spending is to identify that we have a problem. Here are some signs to be aware of. Number 1, do you carry a balance on your credit cards? Number 2, do you run out of money towards the end of the month? Number 3, do you spend more money than you earn? Number 4, do you have a negative net worth? Number 5, do you actually spend more than 1/3 of your income on your rent or your mortgage? And lastly, do you continue to get deeper and deeper into debt? If you answered yes to any of these questions, this is a sign that you might have a spending problem. So what I want to do right now is talk about how we can address this specifically. Understanding the reasons why we spend so much money can help us take tangible steps towards addressing this particular issue. That is because spending money is often a very emotional thing. Sometimes people refer to it as moody money, and meaning that sometimes if you're sad or you're depressed, you might go in and want to purchase something because it can bring you some sort of positivity or temporary happiness. But what you'll find is that that temporary happiness will always be outdone by the long-term negative consequences when you have to actually go and pay that bill. And this is especially true if you rely heavily on using debt or credit cards to buy impulse purchases, because you might be happy in the moment when you get that new item, that new article of clothing, that new technological gadget, but then a month down the road when you have to pay that bill and you don't have the money to do so, that will only worsen the situation and make the cycle continue. A famous philosopher once said that money can buy material things, but real happiness must be truly earned. Now I believe this is important because oftentimes, like I said before, we might try to purchase things to bring happiness or joy in our lives by bringing in some temporary feelings of positivity. However, true happiness or joy that's a little bit deeper, that is something that cannot be purchased. That is something that is much more emotional, spiritual, and almost psychological. It's a very deep internal component of our lives. So really the best way to actually get control of your spending is to identify what is missing in your life, not materially, but spiritually, personally, and maybe even socially or psychologically. So if you can address those particular issues and make sure that they are clear, that will sometimes help you to rein in your spending because you're going to be less tempted to try and purchase something to fill that void. Another cause of unchecked spending is poor impulse control, and that is because we want immediate gratification. It's often imbued into our society right now. We want to purchase things and get it right away. We want next day shipping or the day shipping, or we want to go and get fast food, or we want everything right in the moment, go online and be able to purchase it. That is basically how our economic structure is currently, and oftentimes there are many benefits to that because we're able to get things that we would like. However, that impulse control is super important to maintain, because if we think that we just want something right in the moment, we might spend more money on certain things that we don't necessarily need. My wife and I often take about 24 hours to think about making big purchases. If we're at a store and we see either a piece of furniture or we see something that we might like an art piece or maybe just something practical, we will say, okay, let's take a day to think about this before we actually make this purchase. And oftentimes we'll make the better decision. Perhaps we decide to either not go for it and purchase that exact item, or we might find it for more affordable, or we realize that we just don't need it. So what I would encourage you to do is that if you have issues with impulse control, make sure you just take time after you've thought that you wanted to purchase something, and that could substantially help you down the road financially because you'll purchase less things that are unnecessary. Spending excessive amounts of money due to lack of impulse control is only enabled further by easy access to credit. That is because when you pull out a credit card, it doesn't cause any pain when you go to the cash register and make a purchase. It's the same as if you were to go and purchase something for $5 as it is if you were to go and purchase something for $500. And I'm not saying credit cards are inherently evil or they're bad. If used properly, credit cards can actually provide many benefits, including rewards, points, etc. But when you actually think about it from the standpoint of making the actual transaction work, it's so easy to just go up and give your credit card, and now even further, you don't have to insert your card, you can just tap it, or even use Apple Pay on your phone or other things as well that just try and streamline the process by which money is taken from you. And if this is money that you do not have, it's not coming directly from your account, it's coming from a credit or a debt that you're going to owe, that's only going to exacerbate the problem long term. And furthermore, if you think about this, going to the cash register and having to pull out $500 cash versus paying $500 credit is two very different psychological things that you're doing. It almost hurts when you're putting $100 bills down on the table in comparison to just swiping a credit card or inserting a credit card and not even having to think about it. So think about it from the standpoint, if you seriously have a problem with spending money, try and do maybe things more with cash. I know you might have some limitations right now due to the pandemic, but it actually could further benefit you if you only carry a certain amount of cash with you and you're only going to spend that much amount, then you're less likely to spend more than you would have actually intended to because the impulse is going to be there. But if you don't have the credit to pay for it, you're not able to do it anyways. So that's just something you might want to think about considering. And I'm not going to say that you never should have a credit card, or I personally like to use debit cards, but I always personally prefer to make sure that you have the money available to pay for something. Now, long term, if you do use credit, just make sure that you pay off your balance in full every single month. Never carry a balance on a credit card. That will destroy your credit and will only further develop a long-term problem for you, and it's going to basically dig a hole that it's very difficult to get out of. Now, if you are in debt right now and trying to figure a way out, I'll put a link in the description for a video I created specifically addressing debt. So take your time, look into how you could actually go about getting out of that hole so you can move forward and actually have a positive net worth instead of a negative net worth. As previously mentioned, there are a few tricks that you can use right now to help scale back your spending without making drastic changes in your life. The first would be to use cash instead of credit when you actually go and make your purchases. Like I said before, you're less tempted to spend more money when you actually have to put cash down on the table. Another thing you might want to consider doing is avoid sales. Now, sales can be great because you can get access to products at a less expensive rate. However, that level of excitement and that missed opportunity, or what we call FOMO, fear of missing out, basically might cause you to purchase things that you don't really need. And a sale is basically just a way to drum up excitement around a product. So trying to avoid sales, because it's always easy to find products online that are more affordable, and generally speaking, if you use applications like Honey or other groups, you can find coupons for most products out there. So I just don't want you to have that pressure associated with a sale to be able to make that purchase. Furthermore, if you go to the store, try and use a shopping list. I think that's very beneficial, and this actually really helps out when you're going to buy groceries. If you go to the grocery store, you've heard this before, if you go to the grocery store when you're hungry, you're tempted to actually purchase more food, and there's been studies done where that actually happens. But if you have a specific list of what you need, you just make sure that you go down that list and purchase everything that you're going to get. Another thing you can do is translate money into time. Try and understand that the amount of hours you have to work equals a set amount of money that you have. My wife did this the other day when we were at the store, and she realized, hey, I make a set amount of money per every hour that I'm teaching my student, so I don't want to spend that extra money because I don't see the value in purchasing that product for that amount of time I had to work to get that money. And this is something that's very important for us to understand, that time does equal money. So if you see a product and you realize, do I want to work a set number of hours to be able to purchase said product? That might be a really good question to ask yourself before you make an impulse decision. In addition, another thing you might want to do is try and unsubscribe from a lot of the different accounts that you have. Now, not for this channel. I would actually recommend that you subscribe to this channel because it's free, and all you get to do is have more insight and wisdom hopefully poured into your life that makes a positive impact in your life. But I'm talking about a lot of the monthly applications that you might be involved in, whether that's Uber Eats, maybe Grubhub, those different groups, maybe even Costco or something like that, where you're paying on a monthly basis to have something. Maybe even look at your Netflix account. Maybe you want Netflix instead of Hulu, don't have both, that kind of a thing. So just take your time to unsubscribe from things that are just automatically deducting money out of your account. In addition, what I'd recommend is don't spend too much time on social media. We have so much influence coming at us on a daily basis, and when we see perfectly curated lives that are being streamed at us, or we're scrolling and seeing everyone looking great with certain clothing items, going on vacation at great restaurants, and oftentimes a lot of these people are celebrities who are doing so, who have tons of discretionary income and are in a different tax bracket than we could even consider, I would strongly recommend trying to avoid that, because that also provides you a lot of temptation to make purchases that are unnecessary. Now, I'm not saying any of this is inherently bad or evil, but it's just something that you want to be aware of. If this is a problem that you have with spending too much money, try and scale back your time on social media so that way you're not influenced or pressured or feel as though you're going to make a decision to purchase something that's going to bring you the same happiness or perceived happiness that you're seeing online right now. As you begin to employ these strategies and rein in spending in your life, realize that cutting spending is only one side of the equation. The other side is actually saving money. Now, saving money is something that's very important and critical for us to actually do in order for us to achieve our long-term goals. I talk about saving money all the time on this channel, but what I want to do in this video right now is talk a little bit more specifically about steps you or I should be taking in order to practically save money long-term. The first would be this: ask yourself the question, are you saving any money right now? If the answer is no, then you or I have a spending problem that we need to address. So go back and address those by the different steps that I outlined previously. But one thing you can do is just start saving money on a weekly basis. Even if it's as small as $1 a week, it just gets you into the habit of doing so. And I'd strongly recommend do everything you can, whatever you're doing, saving in a piggy bank or doing something that's easy for you to do, putting money somewhere in your house that you cannot touch, whatever works for you. Just start there by saving money. We'll get more sophisticated as the steps go further. The second thing you want to look at is to protect your money from temptation. And the way you can do this is by securing your money in specific accounts that you cannot touch. For example, there are what are called certificates of deposit, or often referred to as CDs, as financial instruments in the world. Basically what that is if you put a set amount of money into a certificate of deposit, basically you're depositing that money into an account that will grow based on a set percentage for a set number of months or years, and then it'll grow accordingly. So if you put money into a CD for 12 months, you would not be able to touch that money for 1 full year, and if you tried to touch that money, you would be penalized significantly and it wouldn't be worth doing so. Now, one thing to bear in mind, CDs are yielding very low interest rates right now, specifically because the Federal Reserve has dropped interest rates down to 0%, and it's going to do so for the foreseeable future. So CD isn't going to provide you with long-term gains, and it's not necessarily a great investment long-term. It's just one place you could put money. A more effective alternative to a CD is utilizing a retirement account, and you can go forward whatever works best for you, but there are a few that I'd like to talk about. First would be a 401k. Now, a 401k is a pre-tax retirement account. It is basically an account where money is automatically deducted out of your paycheck, put into that account, and then you use that money to invest into the stock market. That money then grows and you can touch it by the age of 59 and a half, and at which time then you pay taxes on it, but you will have grown all that time in the stock market with compound interest. Once again, because you cannot touch the money before the age of 59 and a half, it is something that will prevent you from being tempted from trying to do so, because if you go ahead and nuke your 401k, basically you're going to have to pay significant penalties on it. Now, right now, due to the pandemic, you don't have to pay a penalty through the end of 2020 up to a certain amount of $100,000, but long-term, generally speaking, this is not something you're going to do over the long term. In addition, you have a Roth IRA, which is a post-tax retirement account. That money you put into this account after you've already paid taxes on it. Therefore, it grows tax-free until you reach the age of 59 and a half years old, at which time then you can touch that money. Once again, think about spending this money and actually basically like you're paying yourself in the future. So if you're putting money into specific accounts like this, it's far less likely that you're going to touch it because of the penalties associated with it. An essential element of saving money, in my opinion, is making your saving automatic. Now, what I mean by that is set up automatic deductions coming out of your checking account to go into your saving account on a monthly basis or even a weekly basis. And this is something that's going to set up a system where you don't have to think about it too much. Because if you have to think every single month before you're saving money or putting money into your account, then that prevents and provides you with another opportunity to make a bad decision. Because you might think, oh, well, do I want to put the $500 into my savings account? You might say, well, I saw that cool thing, or I want to go on that trip, or I want to do something else, so you might be tempted to spend that money. Whereas if you automatically have your money deducted and put into your savings account, similarly having your money automatically deducted, put into an investment account or your retirement account, then you do not see that money in your checking account, therefore you're less tempted to spend it, and specifically the money is not there for you to spend. So this is a really effective tool to utilize, because what we'll find is that the more often you have access to something, the more likely you are to use it. So basically you want to create less access to liquid money and liquid capital for you to be able to allocate into things that aren't necessary. Now, once again, when I'm saying these things about trying to save money, I don't want you to live a life where you're trying to feel as though you're not able to live in the present and then you're only focused on when you're going to retire and that kind of a thing, because there is such a thing called balance and moderation. It's why I've titled this channel that. It's because I do believe in the value of living every single day and being appreciative of the moment and trying to live in the moment. But it's all about balance. You want to have the ability to do things presently where you're focused and doing things in the best manner possible that bring you joy and fulfillment and have a positive impact on others who you care about, but also you want to make sure you're planning for the future. It's one of these things that you can just kind of balance it out and do it in a manner where you're going to have the long-term approach and long-term strategy employed, but that also provides you with more peace of mind in the present because you're not stressed about the future. Oftentimes we get stressed about the fear of the unknown or fear of what's going to happen in the future, and if you're knowing that part of your future is secure, then you're able to be more mindful in the present. So that's just something you want to do. And if you make your savings automatic, it's going to really help significantly in that. I made a whole video specifically about how to set up automated finances. I'll put a link in the description for you to check out. Feel free to look at that and try and follow those steps accordingly. One of the most crucial steps you or I can take in order to rein in our spending and get control of our financial house is to budget and track our spending. Now, if you or I go forward and actually have a set plan when it comes to actually allocating our finances, we're much more likely to follow it versus if we just go strictly off of our emotional approach where we just kind of go at every whim or every impulse. That's probably what has led you to the moment that you're in right now if you're watching this video and having a spending problem. So take your time and actually budget your finances. There are plenty of applications out there that you can use. There's Mint, there's also an application called EveryDollar, there's Personal Capital, there's so many things that you can use, and that's one of the benefits of technology nowadays is that there's so many options out there for you to find additional information that can help you become more financially feasible and allow you to achieve your long-term goals. Whatever approach you use, it doesn't really matter to me, but if you set a budget and actually stick to it and then track your spending, that will help you significantly in the long term. Furthermore, it will create opportunities for you to purchase more intentionally because then if you're saving a set amount of money, trying to save for, like I said before, for a house, a car, maybe you're saving for college, maybe you're looking towards your long-term retirement, if you're budgeting your money accordingly, you will be able to actually move forward and work towards your specific goals instead of just impulsively buying things that aren't really helping adding any value to your life. With all that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. If you wouldn't mind, please like the video. That would really help the channel out for the YouTube algorithm, help push this video to other people who might want to hear it, because you might be struggling with spending, but maybe you have a family member or a friend who also does as well. And this video might be able to provide them with tips and tricks for them to utilize right now to help set them on a better path. If you have any questions, please comment down below. I'd love to interact with you, get to know you, do any research on your behalf so it can make a positive impact in your life. Furthermore, if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to myself personally, as I do everything I can to create positive content that makes an impact in your life while encouraging you and myself to lead lives of meaning and purpose, all while maintaining balance and moderation. And if you do subscribe to the channel, please tap the notification bell. That will notify you every time I post a video, which I do on a weekly basis. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. I hope you have a wonderful remainder of your day. Talk to you next time.